Hello and welcome to Mickeyology, where we take Disney a little too seriously. I'm Austin Rathall. Last week we analyzed Disney's Peter Pan and tried to determine when and where that film takes place. You can find the link to that video up above. This week we're analyzing the sequel, which came out 49 years after the original, Return to Neverland. Like the first film, most of Return to Neverland takes place in, well, Neverland. And since Neverland exists outside of earthly space and time, it would be difficult or impossible to determine when and where it exists. However, the beginning and end of the film take place here on Earth, and those scenes offer big clues to the movie's setting. So, when did Jane meet Peter Pan and fly off to Neverland and battle Captain Hook? Let's find out by analyzing the clues hidden in the movie. The movie opens with young Wendy Darling looking out her bedroom window and saying goodbye to Peter Pan. The narrator in the first film revealed that Wendy lived in Bloomsbury, London when she was young, and this film flashes forward to reveal that Wendy still lives in the same house as an adult. This explains why Captain Hook believes that Jane is Wendy when he kidnaps her later on. So we know exactly where the film takes place, the old Darling house in London, England. But when does the film take place? Return to Neverland also has a narrator. He says,
"Our story begins in difficult times. England is threatened with war, and many men have been asked to leave their families to protect their country."
We then see Wendy's husband dressed in a World War II style uniform saying goodbye to his family. This tells us that the movie must take place around World War II, and it sounds like Wendy's husband has been drafted. England instituted a draft for men ages 18 to 41 in September 1939, so this scene must take place around that time. However, the story quickly flashes forward once more.
But the war lasted much longer than anyone could have imagined. Bombs fell from the sky and tore at the very heart of London. In an effort to protect its children, the government decreed that they all be sent to the countryside for safekeeping.
The British government really did organize evacuations to send children to the countryside. The first wave of evacuations began in September 1939. 1 year later, Germany began bombing London in a devastating attack known as the Blitz. The next scene shows Jane and her dog Nana 2 walking the streets of London, and we see buildings that have been damaged or even destroyed by, presumably, German bombs. Then we see a wave of German planes approaching to drop more bombs on the city. All of this tells us that by this point in the film, the Blitz has already begun, and since the Blitz began in early September 1940, we know the movie must take place sometime after that. In the next scene, Jane arrives home and joins her mother and brother in the family's bomb shelter. After the bombing subsides, Jane and her family move back inside the house. Later, an official comes to the door and informs Wendy that her children have been ordered to evacuate the next morning. Now, this order is fictional. The British government did encourage evacuation, but they never required it. However, real British families did evacuate their kids during this time. While many children had evacuated in 1939, not all of them did, and the start of the Blitz sparked another wave of evacuations. In fact, evacuations were still happening throughout 1941, but by that year they had slowed to a trickle, and by the end of 1941 the Blitz was already over. Hitler called off the Blitz in May 1941, and this tells us that Return to Neverland must take place sometime before that date. The lack of snow on the ground indicates that this movie doesn't take place in winter. That means it must take place either in the autumn of 1940 or the spring of 1941. However, since Jane and her brother are supposed to be leaving London as part of a large group,
an order has been issued. Every child must go.
Then the earlier date is more likely. This was a time when the post-Blitz wave of evacuations was just getting started, and the groups of children leaving London would have been probably larger than they would have been later during the trickle evacuations of 1941. Based on the movie's narration, scenery, and dialogue, I'm placing Return to Neverland in London, England in the fall of 1940. So there you have it. That is my theory for when Disney's Return to Neverland takes place. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of my conclusions and when and where you think the movie takes place. Also, don't forget to let me know which Disney movie you would like me to analyze next. Please don't forget to like and subscribe before you go so that you don't miss another video and the channel has a chance to grow. And thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.